The moment they recognize your self-respect won't bend is the moment everything shifts. Not gradually, not over time, not through accumulation of small realizations, just shifts, suddenly, completely, devastatingly, because avoidance' entire strategy is built on assumption that your need for them is stronger than your need for yourself, that your love for them overrides your self-protection, that your investment in relationship supersedes your investment in your own well-being, that your desire for them to stay will make you sacrifice yourself indefinitely. The assumption is foundation of their defended state, is what makes their pattern sustainable, is what allows them to stay defended while having relationship, is what lets them withdraw without losing you, push without you leaving, test without you refusing to be tested. The assumption is their power, is their control, is their security that comes from believing you need them more than you respect yourself. But then they see something that destroys the assumption. See your self-respect in action. See you choosing yourself over them. See you enforcing boundary that costs you relationship. See you walking away when staying would mean violating yourself. See you being done when being done means losing them. See you protecting yourself even when protection means permanent loss. The seeing is devastating to their system, is destroying the foundation their defended state was built on, is revealing that you value yourself more than you value having them, that your self-respect is non-negotiable, while relationship is negotiable, that you'll choose yourself over them when choosing them means abandoning yourself. And will choose yourself is revelation that's creating crisis in their defended structure, is making patterns unsustainable, is removing the safety net their behavior relied on, is showing them that person they were taking for granted. Person they were testing will not be tested. Person they assumed would always accommodate will not accommodate anymore. And will not accommodate is everything changing. The recognition creates specific response in avoidant, response that's different from their usual response, different from withdrawal, different from defended distance, different from testing, is response that comes from panic, from recognition of actual loss, from facing that consequence is real, from seeing that their patterns just cost them something irreplaceable. An irreplaceable loss through their patterns is them experiencing what defended state was supposed to prevent, was supposed to protect them from. But self-respect stronger than their ego means patterns don't protect. Patterns destroy. Patterns cost them person whose self-respect is stronger than their manipulation, stronger than their testing, stronger than their defended need for control. And stronger self-respect is you being unmovable, unbendable. Unbreakable is you having foundation they can't destabilize, having worth they can't diminish, having boundary they can't penetrate. Having self-respect that's more powerful than their ego, and more powerful self-respect is them losing the game they didn't know they were playing until they lost it. The exact moment they recognize your self-respect is stronger than their ego. The recognition comes when you don't chase during their withdrawal. Don't pursue when they create distance. Don't fight when they push away. Just let them go. Let withdrawal be withdrawal. Let distance be distance. Let push be actual separation. The letting go is different from what they expected. Expected you to pursue like you always pursued. Expected you to close distance like you always closed distance. Expected you to fight like you always fought. But you don't pursue, don't close, don't fight. Just honor their stated want for space by giving actual space, by letting them experience what withdrawal creates when no one compensates for withdrawal. And experiencing actual consequence of their pattern is them recognizing you're different. You've changed. You're not participating in usual dynamic. You're not doing the work that made their patterns sustainable. You're just letting their patterns have natural consequences. And natural consequences is them being alone when they create aloneness. Being distant when they create distance. Being without you when they push you away. And being without you is them facing that your self-respect won't violate itself to save them from their own patterns. Recognition also comes when they test you and test fails. They do usual test, say something to gauge reaction, do something to measure investment, create situation to see if you'll sacrifice yourself, but test fails, you don't react how they expected, don't invest when they measure. Don't sacrifice when situation is created. Just maintain yourself, maintain boundary, maintain self-respect that won't bend to their testing. The failed test is them recognizing you can't be manipulated anymore, can't be controlled through usual tactics, can't be made to abandon yourself to prove yourself to them. The recognition is panic, is them losing power they had, power that came from your willingness to abandon yourself. But willingness is gone, self-respect is stronger. And stronger self-respect is test failing, is them unable to make you do what they wanted you to do, unable to control what they wanted to control, unable to manage you in ways that made relationship work for them while costing you yourself. And costing you yourself is what you won't do anymore, what your self-respect protects you from, what their ego can't overcome. Recognition comes when you say no and mean it, not angry no, not hurt no, not no that's actually maybe if you try harder. Just no. Clear no. Final no. Boundaried no. No that's said calmly and maintained firmly, and won't be negotiated. The no is different from previous no's. Previous no's had flexibility, had exceptions, had possibility of becoming yes if they pushed right way or said right thing or performed right behavior. But this no is solid, is absolute, is no that stays no regardless of what they do. The solid no is them recognizing your self-respect is real, is maintained, is stronger than their ego's need to hear yes, stronger than their pattern's need for your accommodation, stronger than their defended state's need for you to sacrifice your boundary to maintain their comfort. And maintain no is you being immovable, is you having self-respect that's foundation not performance, that's core not strategy. That's who you are, not what you do when angry. And who you are is person with self-respect stronger than their ego, stronger than their need, stronger than their patterns. And stronger than their patterns is them recognizing they've met their match. Met person who won't bend, won't break, won't abandon themselves, won't sacrifice self-respect for relationship. And won't sacrifice is them facing limit they've never faced. Facing person whose self-respect is non-negotiable. And non-negotiable self-respect is everything changing. How they respond when they realize your self-respect is unshakable. First response is shock, is disorientation, is not understanding what's happening. You're not behaving how you're supposed to behave. Not responding how you're supposed to respond. Not doing what you're supposed to do. The supposed to is their expectation based on your history, based on your pattern of prioritizing relationship over self, of prioritizing their comfort over your boundary, of prioritizing connection over protection. But history is changing. Pattern is breaking. You're doing different, and different is disorienting. Is them not having script for this, not having strategy for you with self-respect, not having tactic that works on person whose self-respect is stronger than their ego. The disorientation is them scrambling, trying different approaches, trying harder, trying smarter, trying everything to restore dynamic where you bend, where you sacrifice, where you choose them over you, but nothing is working. Because your self-respect isn't weakness they can exploit, is strength they can't overcome, is foundation they can't shake. And unshakable foundation is them being powerless, being ineffective, being unable to manage you in ways they need to manage you to maintain their defended state. Second response is anger, is them being upset you're not accommodating, not being understanding, not being flexible, not being the person who used to sacrifice themselves. The anger is defense against panic, is them making you wrong for having boundaries, making you wrong for protecting yourself, making you wrong for choosing yourself over them. The making you wrong is projection, is them unable to face that their pattern's a problem, so making yourself respect the problem, making your boundaries the issue, making your refusal to accommodate the reason for relationship problems. The projected blame is them staying defended, is them protecting themselves from facing that their patterns just met consequence. Met person whose self-respect won't enable patterns anymore, won't accommodate dysfunction anymore, won't sacrifice self anymore. And won't sacrifice is what's creating relationship problems. But won't sacrifice isn't wrong, is right, is healthy, is appropriate. But they can't see that through their defended state. Can only see that you're being difficult, being inflexible, being unreasonable. And unreasonable you is story they tell themselves. Story that protects them from facing that reasonable you is protecting yourself from their patterns. Third response is bargaining, is them trying to negotiate, trying to find compromise, trying to get you to lower boundary just a little bit, just this once. Just for now, the bargaining is them testing if boundary is real or if boundary has flexibility, has exceptions, has give. The testing boundary is them hoping self-respect is performance, not foundation, is something you're doing, not something you are. Is stance you'll abandon when they make right argument or right promise or right plea. But boundary doesn't budge. Self-respect doesn't compromise. Standard doesn't lower. You maintain yourself through their bargaining, through their testing, through their attempts to find crack they can exploit. and no crack is them learning boundary is real. Self-respect is genuine. Standard is maintained. And maintained through their bargaining is you passing test, is you proving self-respect is stronger than their ego's need to control you, stronger than their patterns' need for your accommodation, stronger than their defended state's need for you to be flexible enough that they can stay rigid, and you not being flexible is them having to change or lose you, having to grow or accept loss, having to become capable or face that incapacity costs them person whose self-respect won't enable incapacity anymore. Why your self-respect being stronger triggers their deepest fear. Your self-respect being stronger means they could actually lose you, not theoretically lose you, not eventually lose you. Actually lose you right now through you choosing yourself over them. The actual loss possibility is their deepest fear, is what their defended state is organized to prevent, is what all their patterns are designed to avoid. They defend against intimacy to avoid eventual abandonment, but your self-respect is showing them that defending against intimacy creates immediate abandonment. Creates you leaving not because you're abandoning them, but because you're choosing yourself. And choosing yourself is different from abandoning them. Is you protecting yourself, not rejecting them. Is you honoring yourself, not hurting them. But difference doesn't matter to their wounded system. Their system just registers. Person is leaving, fear is becoming reality. Pattern that was supposed to prevent loss is creating loss. And pattern creating what it was supposed to prevent is their entire defensive structure failing. Is them facing that defended state doesn't protect them from abandonment. Creates abandonment through making them impossible to be in relationship with. And impossible to be in relationship with is what your self-respect is teaching them. Is mirror showing them that their patterns have consequence. That consequence is loss. That loss is you. And losing you through their patterns is their deepest fear manifesting. Your self-respect being stronger also means they don't have control they thought they had. Thought they controlled the distance, controlled the dynamic, controlled when to be close and when to withdraw. Control the terms of relationship. But your self-respect is showing them control was illusion, was based on your accommodation, your sacrifice, your willingness to manage what they didn't manage. But accommodation is withdrawn, sacrifice is ended, willingness is gone. And gone accommodation is them having no control. Is them facing that their ability to control dynamic was dependent on you cooperating with being controlled. But cooperation is over. You're not participating in control dynamic anymore. You're just being yourself, maintaining yourself, protecting yourself. And self-maintained you is uncontrollable. Is person who won't be managed, won't be manipulated, won't be controlled through their patterns. And uncontrollable you is them being powerless. Is their ego facing that ego's need to control is weaker than your self-respect's refusal to be controlled. And weaker than your self-respect is them losing, is ego being defeated, is control being impossible, is them facing that person with real self-respect can't be controlled through tactics that work on people who don't have self-respect. And you having self-respect is their tactics failing, their strategies not working, their patterns creating consequence instead of creating compliance. And consequence instead of compliance is them facing limit of their power, limit of their ego, limit of their defended state's ability to maintain relationship while maintaining defense. And maintain defense is costing them you, and you is too high cost, is them facing their patterns just destroyed what mattered. And destroyed what mattered is fear manifesting, is worst outcome occurring, is them losing you not through you abandoning them but through their patterns making themselves unbearable to be with. And unbearable through patterns is them being abandoned by person who has self-respect, who won't stay with unbearable, who won't sacrifice themselves to accommodate patterns, who won't choose relationship over self-protection. And chosen self-protection is you leaving, is you being gone, is you choosing yourself, and chosen self is them alone, them facing consequence, them experiencing what defended state creates loneliness, creates loss, creates person with self-respect walking away. And walked away is them living their deepest fear, fear their organized entire life to avoid, fear that's happening anyway. Happening because patterns don't prevent fear, patterns create fear, patterns make fear real. And real fear is what they face when your self-respect is stronger than their ego. The specific ways your self-respect dismantles their defended power. Your self-respect removes the incentive for them to maintain defended state. Defended state was maintained because it worked, created distance while keeping you. created protection while maintaining relationship, created defended comfort while you did work of intimacy. But your self-respect is breaking the working, is making defended state cost them relationship, cost them you, cost them something valuable. And costly defended state is no longer worth maintaining, no longer serving them, no longer protecting them from consequences, because consequences are happening anyway through your self-respect, refusing to accommodate defended state. The removed incentive is them facing choice that wasn't visible before. Choice between defended state and you, between patterns and relationship, between staying defended and losing you, or risking vulnerability and potentially keeping you. The visible choice is your self-respect creating, is you making their patterns costly enough that alternatives to patterns become attractive, that vulnerability becomes option, that change becomes possibility. Not because you demanded change, because your self-respect made not changing cost too much. Your self-respect also exposes their patterns as dysfunctional instead of letting patterns appear normal. When you accommodated, patterns appeared sustainable, appeared like just how relationship worked, appeared normal because accommodation made patterns functional, made them work despite being dysfunctional. But your self-respect withdraws accommodation, and withdrawn accommodation is patterns appearing as they are, as dysfunctional, as unsustainable, as creating consequences. The exposed dysfunction is them seeing clearly what they couldn't see while you were accommodating. Seeing that patterns don't work, don't sustain relationship, don't create intimacy, just create distance that becomes permanent when other person has self-respect. And permanent distance is loss, is consequences their patterns being revealed as self-destructive, as destroying what matters, as costing them you, and costing them you is pattern being visible as problem, not as protection. And visible problem is first step toward change, is them seeing what they need to change, what's not working, what's costing them. And seeing cost is your self-respect teaching them what accommodation was hiding that patterns are dysfunctional, that dysfunction has consequences, that consequences include losing people who have self-respect, and lost people with self-respect is them learning hard way what patterns cost, learning through experiencing loss, learning through you being gone, learning through your self-respect being stronger than their egos need to maintain patterns. And maintain self-respect, costing them you, is them seeing patterns clearly. Finally, painfully, too late perhaps, but seeing, and seeing is prerequisite for changing, for growing, for becoming capable. If they choose growing, if they choose capability, if they choose doing work instead of continuing patterns, and choice is theirs. But choice is visible because your self-respect made it visible, made patterns costly, made consequences real, made choosing patterns mean losing you, and losing you is cost that makes alternative attractive, makes vulnerability possible, makes change worth pursuing, or makes them face they're not willing to change, not willing to grow, not willing to do work, and not willing is them losing you. Is you being gone? Is your self-respect being stronger than their ego's resistance to growth? Being stronger than their defended state's commitment to staying defended, being stronger than their pattern's grip on them. Your self-respect is stronger, and stronger means you're free, you're protected, you're honoring yourself, you're choosing yourself. You're gone if they don't change. And gone is what happens when self-respect meets defended resistance to growth. Gone is outcome. Gone is consequence. Gone is you protecting yourself from patterns that won't change. And won't change is them staying defended while you stay gone, or them changing while you assess whether change is real. Either way, self-respect wins. You win, protection wins, boundary wins. And one is what happens when your self-respect is stronger than their ego, is stronger than their patterns, is stronger than anything that was keeping you stuck, keeping you sacrificing, keeping you accommodating dysfunction. And accommodation ended is you free, you protected, you honoring yourself, you being stronger. And stronger is you choosing you. Always. Finally. Permanently. How your self-respect forces them to see themselves clearly for the first time. Your self-respect is mirror they can't look away from. Mirror that shows them who they actually are, not who they think they are. Not who they perform being. Not who they want to be. Who they actually are through their patterns. Through their defended state. Through their impact on you. And impact is visible in your self-respect. Is visible in how you're protecting yourself from them. Is visible in boundaries you're setting. is visible in distance you're creating. The visible impact is them seeing their person someone needs to protect themselves from. Person someone needs boundaries against. Person someone needs distance from to maintain their well-being. And being that person is confronting identity they have of themselves. Identity as person who's protective of themselves, not harmful to others. Person who's independent, not incapable. Person who's selective, not defended. But your self-respect is destroying false identity, is showing them truth. Truth that their patterns harm people. That defended state damages relationships. That incapacity cost them people who matter. And cost visible through your self-respect is them seeing themselves as they are. As person whose patterns required you to develop self-respect strong enough to walk away. Strong enough to choose yourself. Strong enough to protect yourself from them. The mirror of self-respect shows them their excuses don't hold up. Excuses they tell themselves. Excuses about why patterns exist. About why intimacy is difficult. About why relationships don't work. Excuses that blame timing or compatibility or circumstances. Excuses that avoid their responsibility. But your self-respect is breaking excuses. Is showing clearly that pattern's a problem. That timing isn't issue. That compatibility isn't excuse. That circumstances are their patterns creating circumstances. Your self-respect is you being compatible person who would work with capable person. Is you in right timing for relationship with ready person. Is you in circumstances that would support relationship with person who could do relationship. But they can't do relationship. Can't be capable, can't be ready, and can't be is revealed by your self-respect, is revealed by you protecting yourself from their incapacity, from their unreadiness, from their defended state that makes relationship impossible. The impossible relationship is not because of you, not because of timing, not because of circumstances, because of them, because of their patterns, because of their defended incapacity. And incapacity being the problem is excuse destroying truth, is them facing they're the common denominator. They're the reason relationships don't work. They're the problem they've been attributing to everyone and everything else. And problem being them is what your self-respect reveals. Reveals through you being healthy person who needs to protect yourself from unhealthy dynamic. Who needs to enforce boundaries with person who can't respect boundaries. Who needs to choose yourself over person who can't choose themselves or you. And choosing yourself is evidence. Is proof problem isn't you. Problem is them, and problem being them is what they see when your self-respect is mirror. Your self-respect also shows them what they're losing in real time. Shows them through contrast, through who you're becoming as you protect yourself versus who you were when you sacrificed yourself. You're stronger now, more clear, more boundaried, more whole, more yourself. The stronger, clearer, more whole you is version of you that's emerging through self-respect. Through choosing yourself, through protecting yourself from their patterns. And emerging strong you is showing them what they had access to when you were sacrificing. Had access to your strength that was being used to carry them, had access to your clarity that was being used to understand them, had access to your wholeness that was being used to accommodate their brokenness. But access is withdrawn. Strength is protecting you now, not carrying them. Clarity is seeing them now, not excusing them. Wholeness is maintaining you now, not accommodating them. The redirected you is you being magnificent, is you being full version of yourself, is you being powerful and clear and whole and boundaried and strong. And powerful, clear, whole, boundaried, strong you is what they're losing, is who walks away, is who protects herself, is who chooses herself. And losing magnificent you is them seeing what their patterns cost them access to best version of you, cost them relationship with strong, clear, whole you, cost them person who's becoming more themselves through protecting themselves from patterns that were making them less themselves. And less becoming more is happening through your self-respect, through your boundary, through your choice to honor yourself. And honored self is magnificent, is powerful, is everything they're losing. And lost magnificent person is them seeing clearly what defended state costs, what patterns destroy, what incapacity loses. Lose you, loses access to you, loses relationship with you, loses future with you. All because patterns were more important than growth. Defense was more important than vulnerability. Ego was more important than relationship. And ego over relationship is choice they made. Choice your self-respect is revealing. Choice that's costing them you. And you is irreplaceable loss. Is person they won't find again. Is strength, clarity, wholeness combination. That's rare. That's special. That's walking away because self-respect is stronger than their ego, stronger than their patterns, stronger than their defended state. And stronger self-respect is you being free, being gone, being lost to them, being consequence of their choice to stay defended. And stay defended consequence is them alone, them facing what patterns created loss of you, created permanent absence of magnificent you, created them seeing too late what they had, what they lost, what their defended ego cost them. The transformation that happens in them when they truly face your self-respect, some experience ego death, experience their defended identity crumbling, experience recognizing they're not who they thought they were independent person who didn't need anyone, thought they were selective person who just hadn't found right person, thought they were protective person who was preventing hurt. But your self-respect is destroying those stories, is showing them they're not independent, they're defended, not selective, they're avoidant, not protective, they're scared. The destroyed stories is ego death, is defended identity being revealed as false. As performance, as protection that's actually prison. And prison revealed is them seeing they're trapped. Trapped in defended state, trapped in patterns, trapped in incapacity, and trapped self seen clearly as ego dying, is them facing they're not who they performed being. A wounded person, scared person, defended person who destroys relationships through defending, and destroyed relationships through defending is truth. Ego can't sustain itself against, is reality ego can't avoid. And unavoidable, mirror is ego death, is defended identity ending, is them facing who they actually are beneath who they pretended to be. Ego death creates crisis. Crisis is opportunity, is them being broken open, being vulnerable despite defended state, being accessible despite patterns, being ready for growth despite resistance. The broken open is rare state, is them being raw enough that change is possible, that therapy could penetrate, that growth could happen, that transformation could begin. Your self-respect created this, created crisis by not enabling, created opportunity by enforcing consequences. The created opportunity is gift, is them having chance to transform, having opening to grow, having crisis that could catalyze change. If they use crisis, if they pursue therapy, if they do the work, if they become willing to be vulnerable, if they choose growth over defense, if they let ego death become rebirth instead of just death. And rebirth is possible, is minority outcome but is possible, is them using crisis to transform, using broken open to grow, using ego death to become new person. Person who's capable, who's vulnerable, who's able to do intimacy, who's worthy of person with self-respect like yours. And worthy through transformation is beautiful outcome, is them using your self-respect as catalyst, using consequence as teacher, using loss as motivation. And motivated growth is them becoming different, becoming capable, becoming ready, becoming worthy. But worthy too late perhaps, worthy after you're gone, worthy for someone else, someone new, someone who gets transformed them while you only got defended them. And getting defended while someone else gets transformed is tragedy. Is you doing the work of breaking them open but not receiving benefit of broken open leading to growth? Is your self-respect creating their transformation while you're no longer there to witness transformation, no longer there to benefit from it, just gone, just free, just protecting yourself? And protected self is right choice even if it means missing their transformation, even if it means someone else gets better version, even if it means you only got version that required self-respect strong enough to walk away from. But most don't transform, most defend harder, most protect ego instead of letting ego die. Most rebuild defended identity, most create new story that protects them from truth your self-respect revealed. New story where you're the problem. Where your self-respect is you being rigid, where your boundaries are you being unreasonable, where you're choosing yourself is you being selfish. The new story protects them, protects ego from death, protects them from facing they're the problem. And protected from facing is them staying stuck, staying defended, staying incapable, just with new story about why incapacity isn't their fault, why patterns aren't their responsibility, why relationships don't work because of others, not because of them. The stayed stuck is tragedy, is wasted opportunity, is crisis not used, is ego death avoided through defensive rebuilding, is them choosing comfort of defended state over discomfort of growth. And chosen defended comfort is them losing you permanently. Losing opportunity for transformation, losing chance to become capable, losing everything while protecting ego. And protected ego with lost everything is then being alone, being defended, being stuck, forever perhaps, or until next person with self-respect forces another crisis. Another ego death, another opportunity, but opportunity wasted again probably. Wasted on person who chooses ego over growth, defense over vulnerability, patterns over transformation. And chosen patterns is them staying who they are. Who they were, who they'll always be until they choose differently. And choosing differently is rare, is minority, is few avoidants who face self-respect stronger than their ego and let it break them open instead of defending, harder, let it transform them instead of making them bitter. Let it teach them instead of making them victims. And taught by self-respect is them learning greatest lesson, learning that patterns cost people, that defended state creates loneliness, that ego protecting itself destroys relationships, that self-respect in others reveals lack of self-respect in them, and revealed lack is them seeing they need to develop self-respect, need to value themselves enough to do the work, need to honor themselves enough to face their wounds, need to respect themselves enough to grow, and grown self-respect is them becoming worthy, becoming capable, becoming ready, becoming person who could be with person who has self-respect, but becoming after you're gone, becoming too late for you, becoming for someone else. And someone else getting transformed them is outcome, is reality, is them growing through losing you, through your self-respect being catalyst, through your boundary being teacher, through your choice to protect yourself being the crisis that finally drove them to change. And change through your leaving is them transforming because you left, because you chose yourself, because your self-respect was stronger than their ego, stronger than their patterns, stronger than their defended state, and stronger than everything is you being free. You being protected, you being honored, you being respected by yourself, and self-respected, you as you whole, you powerful, you clear, you boundaried, you choosing yourself, always choosing yourself when they couldn't choose themselves. Choosing yourself when staying would mean abandoning yourself. Choosing yourself when choosing yourself meant losing them, and lost them is acceptable cost, is worthy trade. Is self-respect being maintained at cost of relationship that required self-respect being violated? And violated self-respect is price you won't pay anymore, won't pay ever again, just won't pay, and won't pay is boundary. Is standard is you requiring relationship that honors you, not relationship that costs you yourself. And honored in relationship is what you deserve, what you require, what you'll wait for, what you'll find eventually, what you'll have with person who's capable, person whose ego isn't threatened by your self-respect, person who appreciates your self-respect, person who matches your self-respect, person who has their own self-respect. And matched self-respect is partnership, is equality, is mutual honoring, is both people choosing selves while choosing each other, is healthy, is sustainable, is what you're available for, what you're waiting for, what you're protecting your self-respect to be ready for. And ready for healthy is you being strong, being clear, being boundaried, being protected, being free from person whose ego was threatened by your self-respect, whose patterns couldn't survive your self-respect, whose defended state crumbled against your self-respect. And crumbled against self-respect is them learning, them losing, them facing consequence that your self-respect enforced, that your boundary maintained, that your choosing yourself created. And created consequence is you teaching, you showing, you revealing that self-respect wins, that boundary works, that choosing yourself is right choice, is only choice, is choice you make finally, make permanently, make regardless of cost. And cost is them, cost is relationship, cost is losing them, but losing them is gaining yourself, is protecting yourself, is respecting yourself. And self-respected is worth more than relationship that required self-respect being sacrificed. Worth more than person who couldn't handle self-respect. Worth more than defended state that needed your self-respect to be weaker than their ego. Needed your sacrifice. Needed your accommodation. Needed you to be less so they could stay defended. But you won't be less. Won't sacrifice. Won't accommodate. Won't make yourself smaller. Won't bend your self-respect. Won't lower your standard. Won't abandon yourself. Won't choose them over you, just won't. And won't is power, is strength, is boundary. Is self-respect that's stronger than their ego, stronger than their patterns, stronger than their defended state, stronger than anything that asks you to be less than you are. And less than you are is what you'll never be again. Never sacrifice again. Never become again. Just never. And never is promise, is commitment, is you to you, is self-respect maintained, is boundary enforced, is standard held, is you choosing you, always you, finally you, permanently you. You over them. You over relationship. You over anyone or anything that requires you to abandon you. And abandon you is past, is over, is never again. Just never. And never abandon self is self-respect that's stronger than their ego, stronger than their need, stronger than their patterns, stronger than everything. And stronger than everything is you choosing you protecting you honoring you respecting you loving you enough to walk away from anyone who needs you to love yourself less, to love them more. And love yourself less is requirement you reject. Reject, finally. Reject permanently. Reject completely. Just reject. And rejected requirement is you free, you strong, you clear, you boundaried, you protected, you respected, you honored, you whole. You choosing you. And chosen you is victory. Is self-respect winning? Is boundary working? Is you being free from them? Free from patterns, free from defended state, free from ego that needed you weak, needed you sacrificing, needed you less. But you're more. You're strong. You're self-respected. And self-respected you is you being done with anyone whose ego is weaker than your self-respect, whose patterns can't survive your self-respect, whose defended state crumbles against your self-respect. You're done, you're free, you're protected. You're honoring yourself, and honored self is you winning, you surviving, you thriving, you being you, finally, completely, permanently, you.